one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Australian Ecrit powered by KISS. My name is Jess Branker. I'm up here. I'm your host for today. And joining me down there, if the stream works tonight, because Pat and I have really had some internet disputes over the last week or so. How are you doing, Pat Shaw?
Yeah, good. Nathan didn't have the issues that you had, so we're wondering whether it's a technical issue or actually it's just that you have really lost your way. Hopefully, after return from the Tour de France, you got your stuff together. You lucky bugger. I mean, envious is only a start to scrape over the top of it. You must have had a great time.
Yeah, man. But envious. I was in a stinky camper van for 7 days, driving around the tour, climbing the parachute, the Col de Patillion, on a foldable Brompton. Envious? Is that the right
Foldable.
word?
Oh, well, I don't know about the climbing and on the folder bike, but certainly just being there. I mean, and breathing in the atmosphere, particularly Geraint Thomas taking the win. Pretty happy to say I felt pretty confident he would about halfway through. So he's a great winner. So, but tonight we got the Ecrit. So be interesting to see who can get the job done. Very aggressive race last Tuesday night. You missed out, obviously. You were at the Tour de France, but super aggressive race around the volcano. And well, we're back there again tonight.
We are. We're back on the volcano. Do you think we're going to see like a Tour de France backlash? Like, they have now watched on TV, they've seen G win the tour, and they're like, I kind of want to race Swift tonight. Do you think we're going to see a higher level tonight because of this?
Well, it's going to be difficult to race any harder than last week. It was just full tilt from the go. There was young Zach Johnson from Tasmania. There
He
was
finally
Trekkie.
won!
Yeah, but
I
he
missed
was
it.
unbelievable. It was a great. He was unbelievable. And Trekkie Brendan Johnson. So it was the two Johnsons really going at it last week, and obviously Cam was back in there again, ripping absolute legs. He may not be in tonight though, because he's just finished the second leg of the National Road Series, which was just over the weekend. I don't remember how Cam Roberts ended up, but it was a very good race. And most of those National Road Series riders will be preparing themselves for the next round, which starts in about another 10 days' time.
He's not in here tonight, but there's a lot of international riders in here. I see Kim Little, I see Jona Gravdal, I see Mike Davis, I see Tim Violent in here. They're all CVR superstars. So they're making up for the numbers that Cameron Roberts are leaving out on the road. So interesting to see. So we're heading on to the volcano circuit. We've seen this is like what the third or the fourth month of the Ecrit preseason now. It feels like it's going on forever. Somewhere is knocking on Wes's door, going, "When is the season starting, Wes?" But as you can see, Wes isn't here. He's busy doing grown-up things. But anyway, what makes people come back every week and race on Tuesdays, Pat?
It's become a cult-like race, I think, is the easiest way to put it. And there's a lot of pride on the line. I mean, you win the Ecrit, you know you're the talk of the town for at least 7 days until it comes around next time. I mean, you mentioned Kim Little just a moment ago. He was really strong last week and actually very close to taking the win himself. So it also shows you in last year, should I say, in my experience in the Ecrit, not a lot of foreigners. But as you said, plenty of foreigners tonight involved, and clearly they're using this to prepare themselves for European races as well.
Mm-hmm.
And a smart move indeed.
The thing about your season last year is that it was earlier in the year. Like it was March, April, whatever comes after that. Look up a calendar, guys. But here, we're now into the end of July, early August already, and the weather at least in the UK, is slowly turning for the worse. And that's probably why we're seeing some of the Europeans get on. So the longer the season gets pushed, the more the likelihood is to actually see more of these Europeans get involved with it. And we see the same thing with the Chop on Thursdays. I mean, that A group, there's a lot of Australians, but there's also a lot of British people looking at Adam Webb, looking at Kim Little. But so far, it's a toss-up, Pat. What do you like more, the Ecrit or the Chop?
Uh, Without being, and I mean this in all all regards of respect, but I prefer the Ecrit for its reason of you're watching your A graders, but I really like the Chop because you get to get out in front, and particularly look at those D grade, C grade groups. They've been really working well together, and they've fine-tuned their tactics to try and get to the line. The Chop was a brilliant race last Thursday as well, but you weren't there again. But yeah, I like them both, but for different reasons. I mean, the sheer ferocity of the Ecrit, basically there's no one stepping off after the Ecrit feeling good. I don't know how many riders finish the Ecrit and go and do an extra 30 Ks or an hour's riding on Zwift, but it wouldn't be many. But certainly the Chop, it just gives those B, C, and D graders the chance to race with these A graders and a real true chance to beat them.
I feel like you're properly digging into me for going to this massive race called the Tour de France. Instead of being here with my responsibilities covering the Chop, the Ecrit like we're doing tonight. I'm sorry, Pat. I'm sorry that Wahoo Fitness gave me the opportunity to go for 7 days to the biggest party in the cycling world in southern France where the weather is 32 degrees. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, well, it's the weather that's bothered me because it's been absolutely freezing here in Ballarat. And, well, that's why we've seen a lot of the Ballarat riders on Zwift. And last week, the response on the comments were really quite positive too, because a lot of people were shouting out, particularly in the Chop. A lot of sideline viewers as such. As we see, I saw Scott Nolan in there again, the Scottish fella from Adelaide. And I reckon he's one that can really put a cat amongst the pigeons this evening. But as they go up into the volcano the first time, this is the hardest part of the course.
They're doing 8 laps of the volcano circuit today, so 37 kilometers in total. It's a bit longer than the Chop. Kim Little, Keith Leonard, I believe that is Riley, who races for Innovation on Zwift, I believe that is, but also races in real life for GPM Stultz with Cameron Roberts, so quite strong.
Yep.
And it's breaking up already. I'm not having a keen eye to Wieland out of the US because I've seen him race in the CVR World Cup League, and I've also seen him early on push out like 7-8 watts per kilo trying to break the race up, and those are usually the guys, like Pat Shaw used to do when he was fit, try to break up the race and, just create some chaos.
I'll be fit once again, but probably not before November, and I might have to race the Europeans because the Aussies will be out basking in the sun. But, there's more and more riders attacking in the Ecrit now, which is great to see, but a little outside of the Ecrit context. What was your best moment at the Tour de France in the 7 days you were there?
So many. Literally so many.
No. Pick one.
I'll pick one, but I was going to go through most of them just to show you what's actually been happening, just to show you how difficult it is to pick one moment. So we arrived on the rest day. We went to the Sky rest day camp, which is just a massive media circus. Like seeing the press conference, incredible. We walked through all that, went out to the back. We were setting up the new Wahoo Headwinds, which is like a smart fan for your Swifting experience. We're setting that up for them, so they had it ready for the time trial. And out comes Mikhail Kwiatkowski, and he's like, so what is this? And this is Mikhail Kwiatkowski, one of the best riders in the peloton that in his own right could probably finish top 10 on any other team. And he's just casually talking to you. That's just awesome. That's for me, it's just insane. So that was the rest day. Then we had to climb up these massive Pyrenean climbs and these tiny little foldable bikes with 6 gears. And we're passing people and the crowd are going mental because you're not supposed to climb on a foldable bike. On the Pertillion, we stood next to a bunch of Norwegian guys, and if you've ever seen the tour, the Norwegians was where the party's at. So they had beer, they had loud music. I mean, they were just going crazy. They were on Norwegian TV, and that was massive fun. And I think the highlight was probably the time trial day. So at the time trial, we stood behind them. We were watching Egan Bernal and Chris Froome warming up, and I was literally this far away from them. And then Egan goes, Chris, when should I take my caffeine gel? And you're literally this is a future Grand Tour winner asking a 4-time Tour de France winner, 6-time Grand Tour winner, when to take a caffeine gel? It's a moment like this, you just fall in love with the sport. You can't help it, Pat.
Well, I think Egan Bernal's a real great rider to follow. It shows you just how green he still is, but how brilliant he is. I think that's a really cool thing because even though he's going to be potentially the most successful Grand Tour rider ever, I believe. I think he's going to be one that's going to really be appreciative of his success and the people around him that give him his success and help him to his success. And unfortunately, these days, along with success comes a massive ego, and very few riders really have the temperament to respect the people that have got them there. I think Esteban Chavez is a great example of someone that does, but unfortunately hasn't been able to find his best legs in recent time. But Egan Bernal, he's just really exciting rider to watch. And I think we're going to be very blessed with watching him dominate Grand Tours in the future. But here for the E-Crit now, so not a lot of action
if you're wondering,
tonight.
Pat, if you're wondering what the answer to the question was, it's after you've done your warm-up, just before your TT. That is when you take your caffeine gel, guys.
There you go. Well, that's not when you do it. That's when Chris Froome takes it. I mean,
It is.
Some people need to take a caffeine gel to get out of bed in the morning, and I'm pretty close to that these last few weeks. You're on it there.
Got my coffee. It's 10 a.m. in the morning. First work day back from the tour. Literally, following the tour is great, but it's also 24 hours of just constant work. Like it's a vacation in some people's eyes. In others, it's literally film, talk, like do personal relationships, and then go back and edit. Yeah, it's fun, but hey, it is what it is. Not complaining.
Man, they chose you out of everyone to do it, so.
Hey, I don't know if you know, Pat, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Yes. I saw Luke Cridlin in there, and Josh Wilson back too. But we've got Whelan. You'd said about Whelan before, and he's on the move now. These CVR guys, they come here and they really want to race hard. And on 7 laps still to go up this climb into the volcano, this is a big move.
It's 30 kilometers still to go. I know it's really far out to call, but I already see now the trend that the win is going to come from either Mike Davis or Wieland. And that is really far out to call. But on Swift, Mike Davis just has this insane sprint. Like, I've seen Mike Davis hit 22 watts per kilo, Pat. Like, insane.
What?
Mm-hmm.
22 watts per kilo on an indoor trainer. Well, I'd hate to see what he hits out in reality. I wouldn't want to be his rear carbon wheel, potentially catastrophic on a road bike.
He's not the only CVR guy I've seen it doing. Like at CVR Vancouver, we had Greg Leo and Steve Young do a sprint off. And Greg Leo of Team Draft, which they've got a rider in here, Jona Grafdal. Greg Leo, in person, weighed on a calibrated trainer, hit 22.5 watts per kilo. Like, honest to God, real. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know a lot of people that have really tested out a max sprint on an indoor trainer because most of them, I think, for these guys, if they were putting out that, they'll be getting above the max wattage that those trainers expect to put out because I'm sure these guys aren't small and skinny guys.
Yeah,
22 watts
Greg Leo
kilo.
is. Greg Leo is like 60 kilos. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, it's still 1,300 watts, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's a lot. It's unreal. I know there's a bit of like skepticism when we're all talking Swift racing, and Pat, you and me are probably the worst in regards to this with skepticism. But some riders out there, they are real. And with Swift Academy coming up, there's so much testing going around. There's so much making sure you get the right winner that some people on Swift are real.
Oh, no, certainly there is. And I've had this discussion with Nathan actually last week. Mind you, I was going to give you a little bit of credit. At least when you sign into Zwift account, it comes up kilometers per hour and also kilometers in distance because Nathan, with his miles per hour, everyone back in Australia is like getting their calculators out and they're dividing it by 1.6 and they're trying to work out where are we at on the course, how many laps we got to go. We had Aaron Dunn texting us through on the chat telling us how much distance to go because we were looking at kilometers and then there was miles per hour. But so there you go. It's not all a slap in the face for you after the Tour de France. But certainly there are riders on here that are 100% credible and definitely get out in reality and also compete at a high level. Josh Wilson's in here tonight again. I spoke about Luke Cridlin as well. Scott Nolan, who's very good in the particularly in the Masters categories, and Zawadzki, obviously a big show up in last year's E-Crit. And last week, he was my pick and he fell just short. He tried to follow Dunn and then over the top, Johnson just had too much. But it'll be interesting to see who can get it done tonight. You've already called yours, so I'm going to hold out a little bit before I make my prediction.
Hey, the further out you call it, the better odds you're gonna get. You know that. You're a betting man. But we see Stevens.
Yes.
He's gone on to
Yeah.
the attack. 7 watts per kilo. He's going for it.
Yes, he is going for 170 beats per minute. He's not really pushing the limit unless he's like me. I don't have a very high max heart rate, but I really hate this circuit in the E-Crit. It's the hardest circuit of all of the circuits. It's also, there's just nowhere really, this is the only place right here is to recover.
Really?
And
You
also,
dislike this one more than the Classics course?
no, the Classics course isn't even involved. I mean, it's such a, I mean, you can't even get the finish line right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
No, the Classics course is pretty average, but I'm going to be interested. What will the Innsbruck course be like if they ran an E-Crit around it?
It wouldn't really be a crit though, because the Innsbruck course is hilly. At least I have not seen it yet, guys. I actually have not seen the Innsbruck course whatsoever. But I would assume it's hilly because the World Championships course is the toughest World Championships course probably ever. So I'll see.
But it'll be interesting to run the same crew and maybe occasionally do a Kermesse or something like that, maybe 4 laps or 3 laps. Chuck a few climbs in. Let's see what these guys do. It'd be interesting.
It's like throwing them up Box Hill. Like it would be a totally different result because it's different variables that matter. It's no longer like peak power or drafting in a sprint. It's like a VO2 max effort for 6 minutes and then recover and then do it again for another 2 laps. Totally different racing, and it wouldn't really be a crit if that's the case. What I really want to see though, as we head up onto the incline once again, and if you're watching out there and you're wondering, why aren't you watching the race? Why aren't you talking about the race? If you are new to this, it's basically a Swifting podcast with a race in the background. That's how I usually do it by now because it's fun and it's relaxed. At the end of the day, they're chasing pixels, they're popping power-ups. When we get to the pointy end, don't worry, Pat and I will get very excited. But it's what I really want to see is the chop on the Innsbruck course. That could be exciting.
Oh yes, the chop, and the difficult thing for that will be for the handicappers, I think, because obviously with hillier terrain, you've got to give a bigger handicap to the riders that are in the lesser grades, but also to give that chance to break up that A grade group. Last week there was almost 30 A graders going to the line, and it was a massive win for Samsden, I think was the name, but he hadn't registered for Zwift Power. So now's a perfect time to put it out there. If you are, not even if you're racing tonight, if you're just tuning in, but you do race on Zwift, it's important to go into your Zwift account online and opt in via the settings in your account. As we said last week, it used to be if you didn't do it on Strava, it didn't happen. Well, in Zwift, if it's not on Zwift Power, it didn't happen.
It's funny. Like you say that, yet I've raced so much on Zwift that I no longer care about Zwift Power. Like I know it's very controversial, but literally the screen I see at the end of Zwift is the screen I care about because this is going to be weird, and I know it's controversial. Every screen is different. So the end result you see, Pat, because of the latency to the Zwift servers and my latency, it could be different to mine. So on your screen, you could technically be ahead of me. Zwift Power is the ultimate B end like of all results. What they see is correct. But I don't care about that. I want to see what my screen sees because I race according to what my screen sees. I don't race according to the Zwift server because in a sprint, if I knew that you were actually ahead of me instead of behind me, I'd probably push harder, like if that makes sense. So yes,
Yeah, but
if you want to be in the official results, yeah, do it. But if not, it's not that much.
I reckon if I got ahead of you on Zwift, you'd head crack, mate. I don't think you'd come back past me.
That's what you think. We're not going to put that to the test because I'm not stupid.
What I will say though is Zwift Power not only is a good reference for yourself, but for people that are skeptics of people's results, it's also not a bad way to just have a look at how a person's performing over a fair few races. And then I think it puts a little bit of mind at ease. And I also think that it makes you more credible too. And I don't think that actually, it certainly does. It makes your performances more credible too. And I kind of like the ability just to go and have a look and see what results you've popped in. And also you get a running database of all the races you've done. So there's a lot of positives out of it. And I don't really see any negatives out of opting in for Zwift Power.
Oh, this is just me though, because I am, the Jess
Special.
Brenker, and I have a lot of different opinions to the usual crowd. Yes, special, Pat. But it's just remember why you're racing to begin with. Like, I think everyone has gone through this phase, and some people are still in this phase that Swift Power is like the end all. Like, oh my God, Swift Power, this guy did this. I don't believe in it. Or look at the heart rate, look at the power. Oh no, I won or whatever. Just you're racing to get fitter. You're racing to have fun, and that's why everyone keeps coming back. Like, just knock your brains out, have a good time, have a caffeine gel before the start, of course, like Egan Bernal, and then just race. Just race if you're gonna race. Like, it's just some people take it way too seriously, and I understand, but that's just not me, Pat.
Yeah, I don't know. I see it from both sides. I mean, people take a bunch ride pretty serious sometimes too. That's not even a race; it's just a bunch ride. It's different people. I mean, horses for courses. I really love the fact that people take it seriously. I certainly do, and often they smash me to pieces on Zwift, and that's fine. But I love the actual back and forth. And you see, we haven't seen much pop up tonight, as there's 2 riders away now. Kim Little, really strong last week, and Keith Leonard, he's out there as well. Those 2 guys, I don't want to give them too much room, but we haven't seen any messages pop up from the riders in the bunch. Aaron Dunn, usually pretty vocal, particularly at the start of the preseason towards Cam Roberts. And I have to agree, when I first, because I did a couple of the e-crits at the start of the preseason when I was riding a bit more, and I was thinking, Cam Roberts, I mean, it's a bit of a question mark there. But to his credit, he held that form for a long time and proved that he was capable of doing it. So the only other person that's hurt me as much as Cam Roberts this year was Cameron Worth. So I'm really dead against racing anyone with their first name Cameron.
That is funny. I'm really sad we missed that Cameron Worth race, because that was just legendary. Listening to the Lance Armstrong podcast, and one day he goes, oh, Cameron Worth just needs to learn how to swim and run. I'm like, Cameron Worth, I know that guy. I saw him on Swift. I saw him suffer. Oh, that day. That's just a shame, but that's the name of the game. But yeah, no, we're different people, Pat. But Cameron Roberts, to his defense, his results outside in the real world as well, like in the NRS series or whatever, he is the real deal, man.
Yeah, no, certainly. And he showed that up in Queensland last weekend. But it's all about producing a season of results, particularly at that continental level. You want to be able to, not just do 2 or 3 strong races. You really need to show that even when the form's not great, at continental level, you can still stick in there and get results. Because if you can't do it there, when you go up to that next step, it's really going to be a challenge to probably produce a result at any stage. Brenton Jones has been going very well after stepping out of the domestic scene here in Australia, went to UK, and currently has had 1 stage win, I think 2 podiums at Quinai Lake. So there's one good story out of the National Road Series recently, but also a couple of very cool stagiaires at BMC. Alexander Evans from Bendigo, he's about to do a stagiaire with BMC, which is pretty exciting for the young climber. He finished second Esteban Chavez at the Sun Tour in February in Victoria, here in Australia.
Really?
So he's a real talent, second to Esteban up the major climb to Marysville earlier in the year. So he's definitely one to watch.
I'm interested in Jacob Hennessy for next year. Like, looking at Australians who could perform quite well, he's been okay in the British races he's raced in.
I thought he is a Brit.
Is he? I actually don't know. I just know he races for Mitchell and Scott's development team.
Yeah, I think he does, but I think you'll find he is a Brit. Yeah, I think you'll find he is a Brit. Yeah.
Jacob Hennessy. Let's have a look.
Yeah, give it a check. But you are right. The only question mark is he was, and I know this will get back to him somehow. Everything does these days. He wasn't great at Baby Giro, we've got to admit, and that was his real first big challenge. He's a really cool lad, though. I follow him on Twitter, and they've got a good group there. Rob Stannard, he's going to progress to Mitchell and Scott next year. He is a real brilliant talent. I had the unfortunate case of racing him even when he was 16 years of age, and he was a handful then. yeah, he's a great lad too. He's those guys at Mitchelton Scott, they've really got a good development program coming underneath, and I think that's what's probably going to give them the best chance in the future as a World Tour team as well.
Yeah.
Without Caleb Ewan, of course.
It's always funny when you get to this part of the season and the musical chairs happen, because cycling is such a sport. It's like a roller coaster. Like everything is just either up and down, up and down. And Ewan is definitely leaving, since you can see he was not on the Tour de France squad. Greipel's going, but where is he going? And like Valgren is going somewhere else. I had the pleasure of talking to him at the tour.
Well, so Cav apparently going to Aqua Blue Sport.
No way. No way.
Apparently.
No.
Apparently that's what rumor is.
What? No. I could never ever see Cav. Cav is either going to do one or two things. He's either going to extend for another year with Dimension Data. This is all speculation, guys. This is just me and Pat, two very conspiracy theorist heavy guys. He's either going to, the way I see it, either going to extend for one more year, or he's going to step into a management role at Dimension Data. Those are the two options I see.
Yeah, I don't see it. but that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it good.
This is just cycling in a nutshell. I bet you right now, Pat Shaw and I could talk for hours upon hours about all our ideas and theories within the cycling world, because we're so opinionated, and neither of us will give an inch when it comes to arguments.
Some of our discussions, though, we can't also have on here. So it is good that they're bunched up tonight, because we've been able to talk a bit about the professional peloton, but there's not really much happening in tonight's race. I mean, last week, just so many attacks, and literally last week was the reason this week I commentated again, really. I was going to have a race, but then I watched last week's and I was like, nah, not if that's the way they're going to do it. So I said
thought
to
you
Wes,
just wanted to be here with me, Pat.
No, I just said, Wes, you got to get me back on, so I've got an excuse to the local guys why I haven't done the e-crit.
Hey, I think what we're seeing is a bit of Tour de Yas fatigue. Like, Tour de Yas is heavily participated from down under. And I think what we're seeing is people just can't race that much, because they treat it as a race. Tour de Yas, it's a sportive, yet like Savatsky, Kiel, Gravdal, all these guys, they show up and they race the hell out of it. But then they have to do the e-crit, the chop. They have to like compromise.
Yeah, it's certainly the Tour de Oz has become much like the Gran Fondo series as well. You get to the Gran Fondo series, and I'm looking for a gruppetto pretty early in the Gran Fondo. And when I say pretty early, I mean first 5Ks. Start the chat. I get on the chat and I start forming a group. Anyone that doesn't want to be part of the group, I invite them, not in a nice way. I just invite them to either ride ahead or drop off, because we just want a happy group that's going to get through the ride, because they're tough rides, those Gran Fondo series rides. But everyone wants those coveted jerseys. So it's good to get a group together early. But
they don't have to be, though. They don't have to be tough rides. It's just a mentality that once you jump on Swift, everything is a race. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, well, it does. That's why we got the chop now.
It's funny that mentality took over. Like, Swift is a training program. Like, it's at the very, very core, it's meant to make you fitter as a person. And yet the community, which is the reason why Swift is so great, came in and said, no, it's a race, because I say so. Now, race.
Well, yes, because it's the same as Strava. When Strava came in, friendships broke up, because all of a sudden you would get a King of the Mountain and you'd get that crown and you'd love that crown. And then all of a sudden an email would come through at some silly hour of the morning, and it was your friend. And they've gone and poached your own King of the Mountain without asking permission, without even knowing that you had done it with a headwind and they target it with a tailwind. All those things. It ruins relationships, Strava.
First world problems. First of all, Pat, you need to have a com in order to actually lose it. Just say it.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't gone outside to search for a Strava com in quite a while, but feel free to go and see if I have any left.
So if you're listening out there, go on Pat Shaw's Strava right now, search for his most coveted com, and go take it from him. I want to see his reaction.
I'm not gonna mention the actual segment, but it was taken recently. So someone has finally taken the one King of the Mountain on Strava that I was very surprised I got, and it's gone. So Strava's dead to me now.
Strava's dead. That's it. Pat Shaw, done. Nope. Infamous breakup. You heard it here first on Swift Community Live. Back to the
Yes.
racing at hand, though. We got Riley off the front with a Wilson from WP TAS. They've got 14 kilometers left. Pat mentioned this earlier. Not like people have tried to break it up today in the Ecrit, but nothing has really succeeded. But now these two guys have 10 seconds with Mike Davis in no man's land.
Yeah, and this is a serious little break off because then you've got Davis on his own and then back to Kaeland, and then it's another gap between Kaeland and the group as such. But even the group, it seems to be broken up. So it's going to be difficult for them to use each other for the drag. It's important for Wilson and Riley to use the exit of the volcano and then that next sort of kilometre. That's the easiest part of the course. And if they can keep the power down through that part of the course, they should find themselves arriving back to the volcano with a very similar lead. And that could discourage the chase from behind. But Wilson really stretching Riley out now, maybe feeling a little bit of the fatigue after the battle recharge NRS round just last weekend, or just a couple of days ago, should I say.
The thing is, today we're only seeing about 35 riders on the start line. So usually in the E-Crit, there's about 60, 70 strong riders in the A group. And with half of that only showing up today, the blob effect, the peloton, the drag, it's much less, meaning they have to work much harder to catch a breakaway like this. So 10 seconds for Wilson and Riley. It's not that much, but it could be just enough to take the win today. But with 3 laps to go, 13 kilometers racing, I think it's going to come back.
Yeah, well, we wait and see. I'm just another shout out to, I think it was Sean McKee. I can't quite remember, so I do apologise in advance, but it is S. McKee. I'm pretty certain. Under 15 he is, Jesper. He's in the C grade class tonight, and he rode the chop on Thursday. He's only 14 years of age, and he rides for the PHAT team from Tasmania as well. And we'll see them next time they come around. There's a few of them involved, and I think it was Platypuses. I'll find out exactly what the name of the team was, but they got a good group for the chop. But he's only 14 years of age, and he's having a crack in C grade tonight. So great to see him back having a go again. And hello to all the riders down in Tasmania.
That's cool. Seeing the young ones get involved, because Swift is it's an old man sport as it is right now. Most of the people are like Pat Shaw, past their prime. Just kidding, guys. Sorry, that was too easy.
Well and truly.
No, it's.
I'm not ashamed to go there. It's everyone knows it, and so do I.
No, it's just fun to see talent slowly cropping up on Swift, because it is such a massive talent like pool to catch the next big thing. And like, imagine watching one day on the Tour de France and be like, I raced this guy on Swift 5 years ago when he was still an upcoming talent. That, to me, that whole idea is just insane.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And look, everyone knows the story about Matt Heyman returning from injury, using Zwift to prepare for Paris-Roubaix. It's an incredible story, an emotional one too, particularly with how many editions he'd ridden previously, and got close to success, but obviously he hadn't won. And then Steele von Hoff more recently for the Commonwealth Games, he took the gold medal there. He broke his back only, I think it was 9 weeks out from the Commonwealth Games or 10 weeks out. Used Zwift as a way of training, particularly while he was still unable to move a lot. Came back, won convincingly at the Commonwealth Games against a very solid field, particularly the British riders. And now also recently we saw Ollie Jones from the men take out last year's Zwift Academy. Obviously now we're in the 2018 edition of that. If you haven't signed up yet, get involved. I know Nicholas White, who was a finalist last year from Ballarat, he's involved again. Very excited to see if he can make the final again. There's opportunities on here, both for men and women. I mean, there's Zwift Academy for the women as well. Tanya Arath, a previous winner, racing for Canyon SRAM in the women's. That's a really good thing about Zwift, and I've spoken about it in the last couple of weeks, is yes, we touched on, and you touched on, the community aspect, but there's also that chance at fulfilling a lifetime dream. And for some people, it's not a lifetime dream. It's a dream that they actually have come across whilst on Zwift. It's sort of made them attracted to cycling. So it's great. There's so many different parts of Zwift that attribute to different types of people and lifestyles.
I think it's worth mentioning Ryan Christensen as well, because Ryan was a semi-finalist at the Swift Academy last year, didn't quite make it to the final, but he's now racing for Kenny Iceberg, probably one of the best team on the UK like level scene or like the country scene. And he's now racing all these big races. He's gonna be at Tour of Britain, I believe, in September. And like the way I know Ryan is from CVR. He raced the CVR World Cup. He did quite well in Paris, where the only guy he lost to was Ian Bibby of JLT Condor, probably the strongest UK national level pro. And Ryan Christensen is only, what, 22, 21, however old he is. He's going to go places. Like, he one day, I do see him going World Tour.
Yeah. Well, he's still got to develop, obviously, but yes, he's spent time in the National Road Series here in Australia as well. I raced him a lot in New Zealand over the last few years of my racing career as well. He's a very aggressive rider and a talented climber. But if you're matching it with Ian Bibby, although Ian Bibby sometimes does lose his way a little bit, he's an incredibly talented rider and himself could have been World Tour under different circumstances. So a lot of respect for Ian Bibby, and anyone that can sort of match him toe-to-toe does deserve a mention. And Ryan Christensen, I know him personally and I know his capabilities. So it's definitely well worth the shout-out for Ryan Christensen. But we're a bit spoilt for talent, it seems, these days. And therefore, even riders that have a fair bit of talent are overlooked because there's so many amazingly talented riders.
Yeah, it's the whole Swift effect that there's just so many good riders you don't know where to start. And despite that amazing pool, it's one or two that actually make it to the big scene. Like, you have to be extraordinarily good to actually make it to the extra point. And that's the way cycling is. Like, if you compare the best in the sport to your average pro, there's still a really, really big gap. Like, it's just insane. Like, but that's cycling.
Yeah, well, it's also sport. A lot of sports, there's a huge gap between your top tier and then your next tier, and then from there to your next. And hopefully we can see that. That's probably what's exciting about the Australian National Road Series is that there's still upset victories. It's not a done deal before the races ran, much like here tonight. I think Zawadzki, I'm going to double up on him. I know he let me down last week, and I know he'll look back or he'll be watching this stream. So if you do let me down again, Linton, it's the last time.
Game over.
I'm not a 3-strike policy. I'm a 2-strike policy.
Looking at Linton, I just struggle to see anyone beat Mike Davis. I know Mike can sprint, and you have to go on a solo breakaway. It'd have to be Riley and Wilson again going off the front, and I think they're communicating because they seem to be timing their efforts off the front very well, but it would have to be them.
Yeah, sometimes in these races, though, you see that there's another rider that's very strong, and then you want to be with that rider because you believe that you can probably work together. They didn't work together all that well last time they got away, though, so I don't like their chances. I thought that was the break to go all the way, and it didn't do so. So I think we're probably set for a sprint tonight, and that ever
the thing is, though, Pat,
desirable...
on Swift to get away, you need to hold incredibly high numbers of wattages. It's not built for a breakaway victory, and if it is, you could almost win just from the sprint alone because you need to average 5.5 or 5.4 just to get away in a stage like this.
Yeah, and that's where in the past, where the races break up is more, instead of going off the front and doing that really sustained effort for a long time, you actually deliberately get caught and go again, and deliberately get caught and go again, and try and stretch that group out, because the only way that you can really break up the group is to let riders get dropped from the wheel in front so they're not getting that draft effect. Then they've got to work as hard as what you do out in front, and then you're on level playing field. Mm-hmm. If you try and break away by just riding off the front, you leave this big group behind you. The drag effect for all the others that aren't on the front of that group, they're not even really trying that hard. So when they do catch you, that gives them the ability to really throw down a strong counterattack. And often that's where we see those short breakaway victories made, so they win by 2 or 3 seconds. Last week, Josh Wilson almost survived. He went really long in his sprint, used his power up early as well. So maybe Josh Wilson can try that again tonight and survive.
It's just, I would love to have a sit down with John Mayfield, the creator of Swift, and just discuss the algorithm. Like, I know it's top secret and it would never ever get out into the public, but looking at it, I just wonder, like, they're doing 200 watts right now, but Linton Savatsky is also doing 45 kilometers an hour. And like, it feels a bit exaggerated in that point. I'm like wondering, like, why? Like, for racing purposes, it's not quite that accurate.
No, well, it's interesting. I had this conversation with a customer in store just yesterday, in fact, about the speed versus power on Zwift. And I said to him, what you've got to realize is if you went outside and there was no wind, even when you move forward, there was no wind, that's where that speed is created. I think that that's not taken into effect. So your own aerodynamics, basically on Zwift, the way I see it is you are perfectly aerodynamic to never have to worry about hitting any kind of breeze at all. So at 220 watts on a slightly downhill, 45 kilometers an hour is plausible.
Mm-hmm. No, it is. It's just, from a racing point of view, it just takes out some of the skill required to win a stage, to win a race. Because if you're always perfectly aerodynamic, that's probably one of the most key aspects of cycling, just taken out and nullified, neutralized, cancelled.
Oh, and also getting through a corner and knowing how to corner well. Well, there are aspects of cycling too, but I mean, we're on the virtual world here, and we're trying to produce pure power, Jesper.
But do we have to, is the question. Does it have to be pure power? Does it have to be? Why? Like, this is just me spitballing. I would just love to see a change where you'd have to take corners correctly, or you'd have to sit correctly in a bunch, or what if you actually had to stop? Like, what if you had to actively try not to hit a rider in front of you? I know this is all just unrealistic, like, what ifs, but from a racing point of view, that would separate the greatest Swifters from just the average ones, because right now, it is just pure power.
I think that you'll find that, and look, it's not my domain, but not too long not too far in the future, we will see a virtual reality aspect involved, and you'll wear those headsets that we now see so frequently in the gaming world. And I think that's where that sort of situation will be possible. The one thing, if anything, that I would like to see probably more so in Zwift would be the divided effect. So if you were sitting in the first wheel behind the lead rider, your draft should be less than what the third, fourth, fifth, or if you're in the middle of the V, you should get like an absolute killer draft, and it should be like almost like a power up, so you can see, and then you can fill it up, and once you're full, you get the full draft, and then once you hit the wind, that starts to die down. That's where I reckon that's my little brainstorming activity for the Zwift HQ.
And I'm sure we're not the only ones to make all these assumptions and all these ideas, because it would literally just make it so cool. Like, I agree with you. If you watch the tour, if you watch any major race, when you're in the middle of the pack, they're basically freewheeling. If you look at the Strava activities from some of the guys that upload power, the average watts are not much higher than 200 for like the flat stages, because they just sit there and freewheel the entire stage.
Yeah, and that's not even normalized power. I mean, that's probably an actual average power. I mean, it's sometimes you are literally doing 0 watts in those pelotons. And obviously we go back to aerodynamics and also skill set in the peloton. The better that is, the closer you can sit to the wheel and the less nervy you get. And you get the best draft. I mean, that's where the sprinters survive. It's that cunning capability. Last lap, Jesper. It's happened quickly tonight.
I know.
And it was your man Davis that hit off the front, but he's been joined by Gravdal and also Powles coming across Kim Little. He was really strong last week. Wes Wheels nearby as well. Josh Wilson, Keith Leonard, Randall just off those. Luke Cridlin from New South Wales, good friend of mine. I wouldn't mind seeing Luke Cridlin pull something big off tonight, turning back the clock. We raced each other as under 11s, can you believe it? And so he's still at it. Me, not so much. But this is starting to heat up. I think they all think they've got a chance tonight.
They do. Mike Davis is in the front with Kim Little. They're both teammates. They're teammates. We got Joni Grafdal. Grafdal was the most aggressive rider at the last CVR event, so he knows how to attack off the front. I've also seen Powells from WBR, one of the familiar faces from European racing, that Belgian flag. He's always good. I remember him from the World Championships where he put a teammate into the top 3, I do believe, of Swift about last year in September. And we're now 2 kilometers from the end, and it looks like it's all together in front again with Wilson. But that's not the last attack we've seen, but it looks good for my man, Pat. Mike Davis still reacting to every move. He looks good.
Yeah, still up there. Riley up there as well. The rider from New South Wales as well with the GPM team you spoke about earlier. But a bit of a move now from G. Is it G? No, it's not. It's Stevens. I saw G there. I thought, oh, hang on, this is going to be Geraint's going to take out this one as well. But possibly not Geraint Thomas, I don't think.
Are you sure about that? Here comes the arrow from G out of Ireland, who's gone off the front with an arrow to try and bridge across. But this is just creating a ripple effect in the peloton. Kim is reacting to this. Mike Davis is reacting to this. Riley, Aaron Dunn. We haven't really touched upon him too much tonight. He's still lacking that punch to actually win one of these. We'll see if he can get back into shape tonight.
Well, on reflection, I believe that Aaron Dunn did win the eCrit last week.
Ooh.
And the chop was won by Samden. But Aaron Dunn did come over the top, I'm sure, and he was then ran second, I think, was Zawadzki. Maybe it was Josh Wilson. So could Josh Wilson and Aaron Dunn try the same thing as they did last week? Josh Wilson went long. That forced the bunch to sprint early. And then Aaron Dunn used his aero power up to perfection to come over the top and steal it from his teammates. So both from the Wolfpack Tasmania, they should be called I reckon they should be called Wes's Wheels, because he's the guy that has organised that Wolfpack. But there's a fair few within a chance tonight. But it's G doing it for, again, after winning the Tour de France, G's now going after the eCrit just the Tuesday afterwards. He's not worrying about the post-tour criteriums with hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's going to go. I reckon he's got this very close. That 12-second mark's about what you need at this point. Well, it's going to hurt up into the volcano, but this is a really good break.
1K to go. The thing is, though, G... It's not confused. It's not Geraint Thomas, guys. But G from Ireland, he used his aero power up. So he has none. Back in the peloton, we see a reaction from Riley, who's trying to bridge across. He's dragging that peloton with him. The gap to G is now coming down. They're going to turn left. They're going to go up that incline one last time. But the pace is insane going into this last sprint. Kim Little is reacting to it. Mike Davis is there. Keith Leonard from Innovation is trying to go with this. But G's going to get caught. 4 or 5 seconds now. It's coming down. G should be burning out all his matches. He's got no power up. I reckon he's going to be snatched up by the peloton. But the question is now, who's got the power? It's Mike Davis kicking it back up to 7. They're hitting the incline, Pat. Here they go. They go left and they go up. Savatsky's in second wheel. Dunn in third. Little fourth. Leonard and Keel down in fifth. But they haven't quite caught G just yet. The man from Ireland, he's got 3 seconds, 2 seconds. But we're seeing orange numbers now. Joshua Wilson up to 9. Kim Little up to 11. Savatsky up to 12. He's going to get slaughtered by the peloton now. Here they come. Kim Little, Linton Savatsky, Joshua Wilson. No one has launched just yet. Look out for those aero power-ups. There it comes. I believe that's Linton Savatsky on the front with an arrow. It's Kim Little with an arrow. Who else is it going to be now? Where is Mike Davis? There he is. Get ready for this, Pat. You ready for a launch? He's still at 6. He's still at 7. He's sitting in that draft. Here we go. First person view on Joshua Wilson. Kim Little. Last bit of drag to the line. How much power do they have left? It's Kim Little, Joshua Wilson, but Aaron Dunn with an aero power up is going to come around. We're still on the first person
do 2
view.
weeks in a row.
Oh, I think Dunn took it just on the line. Mike Davis second and Kim Little third. So Dunn shutting me up.
Yes, and Zawadzki there in fourth. I think it was Josh Wilson right up there and Luke Cridlin turning back the clock there. Luke Cridlin in a 7th or 6th position. I saw Randall in the B grade, and he survived that whole way with A grade. So Randall next week up to A, I think, for him. But your man Davis so close. But as I said last week, Aaron Dunn timed that aero power up to perfection. He said that his power up ran out 1 meter to go last week. And this week, I think he even got it more to perfection, if possible. And so he's taken out 2 in a row.
Incredibly. Like, that was so close. I'm still waiting for Swift Power to update. If you want to see the results, you can head over to swiftpower.com and see the official results. We're on a different camera point of view. I went to the first person view. If you liked it, let us know. If you didn't, that's okay. We're trying something new, as we can do here in the eCrib preseason. Pat, are you back with me on Thursday for the chop, or are you racing it?
No, I'll be back with you again on Thursday night for the chop, and looking to even get more numbers involved again. It was almost a record last week. Remember, if you're in those C and D grades, recruit, because the bigger your group, the easier it is to go quick, and the better it is to watch those A graders suffer like dogs.
I think we have the results on Swift Power. Mike Davis, according to Swift Power, took the win in front of Aaron Dunn, Savatsky, and Kim Little.
Well, Swift Power will go with the credibility of Swift Power. Aaron Dunn, he won't be happy. You'll see him in the comments below. And down there, he will be writing all sorts of things. He's hilarious. He does not like to lose.
Sounds a bit like you, Pat. And on that note, everybody, I will see you all next Thursday with Mr. Pat Shaw once again.